we'll abridge the bio next time so as to not to bore you. And I rode the bench at that UVA team, but it was an extraordinary group of world-class players. It's great to follow Bruce's discussion, because what I loved at the macro level was he more or less shot down the fact that IoT, we're all buzzing around with IoT and drilled into it saying, well, really, what does that mean for you? So on that theme, I'd like to take a look to some degrees on AI and then dovetail this into very specifically the voice interface and the evolution of NLP, natural language processing. Just so I can gauge the audience's prior knowledge or awareness, how many of you have heard of Hound, the voice search and assistant, or the Houndify platform? Okay, great, thank you. All right, well, let's take it from a high level point of AI, this world of AI. We're hearing so much about it. It has many components behind it, including speech recognition, right? We've got natural language processing, conversational intelligence, meaning can there be a back and forth with the agent, text to speech, taking text and coming back as robotic speech, or inserting the auditorial experience of hearing back speech. Knowledge graphs, we've got speech to meaning, which I'll talk about, deep meaning understanding, right? You've got per user storage that helps personalization and understanding specifics regarding the individual user. Audio, music recognition, voice biometrics, image recognition, automatic language translation, fingerprint identification. Many of you are already using this in your daily life. Face recognition itself, iris recognition. So all of this kind of combines into a spectrum of AI. But let's give a nod to natural language understanding. Sorry for that formatting scrunch on this screen. Spending a moment on a quick path of the evolution. So back in the 80s, we first got introduced to home computing, introduced with a mouse interface, right? So the physicality of going like this to interface with a machine became just normal. In the 90s, as touchscreen technologies started to make their way, it forebode the 2000s and obviously the iconic device of the iPhone changing everything, whereby mass market suddenly went from a daily habit of just this, moving a keyboard, a mouse and tapping on a keyboard, to literally down, touch, type, and swipe on a touch screen. Phenomenal. I'll argue that inside of a decade or 15 years has really driven so much of our focus. But what's incredibly important to understand is that the very beginnings of an inflection point towards using the air out of your lungs to interface with machines. So here we are today with the rise of voice technologies, most known through Siri, Alexa, OK Google, Hound, Cortana, and leading the space. But let's just go back and see if I can navigate this with a play for this video clip, where I just want us to remember, the generation that grew up with an iPad, born into this. If we play this clip. I call this the touch, type, swipe generation. This child grew up assuming everything was touch, type, and swipe. That child has no problem assuming everything going forward would be touch, type, and swipe. Right? So what I want us to realize is now, when you have a child in a home with a voice interface product, and the Echo should go down as the iconic first screenless device to which we spoke. We talked to it with our back to it, and it became seamless. It came into our home. So the child today, because often you'll hear, oh, I'm uncomfortable talking to devices, and who's really going to talk to things? In this room, you know that's just an obvious, it's coming, particularly in automotive where it's high stakes and there needs to be a phenomenal voice interface. But the child growing up today with the voice interface, Sarah, if we could play that video, please, it's going to be very seamless. This is quite a cute clip.
Alexa, play. Alexa, play. Play ABCD. Alexa, play ABC. Alexa, play ABCD.
Note some degree of frustration. And if anyone is in speech,
Alexa,
children's voices are non-trivial to capture and act upon. So, little example there, we can move on from this. My point is this little lad will grow up and assume, just as the iPad generation did, that you speak to, yes, your refrigerator, yes, to your car, yes, into the walls of your home, your offices, etc. So it's a very meaningful cultural shift that we need to be aware of. And my overall premise is businesses need to be equipped to lean forward into this shift and have the tools to make it relevant for their own company and build something of consequence. So let's go back and understand how voice is penetrating on adoption. So I'm just trying to move the slide forward one. Thank you. It's okay. Right, it's just going to be some statistics on people using voice interface first on their mobile device and the percentages of people shifting towards it. And I think seeing these numbers make you realize it is really absolutely happening, especially in a cohort of the millennials who tend to use voice every day on their mobile. So I'm now going to move in. We'll get these slides up. Just sorry about that. The cute little guy talking to Alexa was all-consuming, right? Thank you for being patient. We can fly through. Here we go. So these are what we're very familiar with. Alexa, Siri, we've got Google there. Some statistics here, 65% of smartphone users report using search assistants. That's in 2015, it's greater now. 55% use voice assistants regularly. 40% across the board have interest. They're curious and saying, yes, I'm open to speaking to my devices. 50% of people who use music apps would also like the voice functionality, and 28% have adopted voice, and I am embarrassed to say I don't know what's behind my face there. So the detail there. Now, this dovetails from Keysight's point about IoT, and just coming back to the number of how large a pool of devices that are going to be shipped in 2020 that are connected. All right, so lots of connected devices getting to market, and a good segment of them might or should or really could leverage having a voice interface versus a companion app or having to touch or type or swipe. So let me bring it back to what I want to share in terms of new science and implementation of technology that's profoundly different from the last 30 years of voice recognition and natural language understanding in the context of the SoundHound Inc. company. We're probably most known for, because we've been around for 12 years, for the music app that we've had in the market. So it's a music recognition app inside of the vertical of music search, discovery, and play. It's been a phenomenally successful app. All along, our founders have always had the vision that one day we will speak to our computers. Obvious today, but in 10 years ago when you were pitching this up and down Sand Hill Road, for example, it might not have been as embraced. So our team set out in a stealth lab to figure out, and we knew it was going to take this amount of time, right? Building a set of technologies as complicated that deal with acoustic modeling, language modeling, the ability to create a platform and scale. It's not the same as creating a video sharing app that, in all fairness, could probably be built, architected, and shipped within 3 months, and with a little success of viral marketing, blow up to being something really great. This technology is hard. SoundHound Inc. is the only private company that has their own suite of technologies to be able to do all this stuff. So within the last year and a half, we pulled back the curtain of the stealth lab, and we launched our own B2C product called Hound. That's a voice search and assistant app. and it's powered off of our Houndify platform. That's what I want to educate everyone on in terms of what technology sits on the Houndify platform, because this will come back to the relevance of how do businesses understand what they can harness today in order to maximize IoT, the coming of IoT, for something consequential in their own business. So as a tech overview, we like to think about imagining the world where your brand and your product can be responsive and interacted through the command of your voice. And it takes several things. The developer platform is critical. And you see that Alexa has a dev platform, for example, but our platform is enabling users to control their own brand and be able to harness all the components that are live on it. And this hits the scale point. There was one thing that Bruce, just before me, mentioned that I noted when he said the real issue is making something that's leverageable, valuable, and as a solution across a range of businesses, right? How do you make this scalable? That's the crux. So you need the tools, and unless your company can spend 10 years developing it, because remember, the resources and quite frankly, the geniuses behind making step changes of either speech accuracy and putting this all together are few and far between. Trust me, they're hard to find. So having the world's fastest ASR, that's the speech recognition component, plus the most advanced NLU, is the treasure trove right now. So we have these two components plus what we call deep meaning understanding. So you're hearing a lot about machine learning and how sets of data are extracted and worked upon through machine to machine. We've leveraged this in order to layer in the domain sets of data to expand them without additional work per developer coming in. I'll do a demo and get this feeling a little more understood. Speech to meaning is how we combined voice rec and NLU, right? We've got over 125 domains, and a domain, by that I mean weather, sports, unit conversion, time, places of interest, local search. To put that in context, when Siri launched, they had about 5 or 6 domains, and then 5-6 years later, they're up to about 27. This is critical for the path to scale, to get to the holy grail of talking to our things like we talk to each other, right? If I didn't make that clear, we don't want a world where we talk Tarzan talk. Flight, Toronto, September 22nd. No, what's the best flight fare for a flight to Toronto on September 22nd for 2 people? I want to be able to talk just naturally and not have to go into the era of keyword-based entity detection type searching, which is, quite frankly, how all the other systems currently are being built upon. So it's really imperative if we as humanity want to have people speak naturally. So that little lad talking to Alexa, will he have to force himself to constantly figure out how to talk to the machine? Or can our technology be so sophisticated and advanced that it actually falls away and we speak like we do to each other? And so for example, let me just get a demo going here. Inside of Hound, I could say, like I would to a concierge, if I came into this hotel on a Sunday night and I wanted to do a little bit of work, where's the nearest coffee shop within 5 miles, except for Starbucks, that's open after 11 p.m. and has outdoor seating?
Showing 2 coffee shops within 5 miles sorted by distance that are open after 11 p.m. that have outdoor seating excluding Starbucks.
Okay, so that was a compound complex query. And it was sort of how I would just ask it naturally to a concierge. And then from that, I would love to just say, I need an Uber to the first one.
Sure, an Uber X can take you from here to Queen's Cafe located at 372 Barber Lane in Milpitas in 9 minutes for a... Please log into your Uber account to continue the request.
So I've just mistakenly booked an Uber, but that's okay. I'll have to expense that one and just write it off. But my point there was, look, I just did an action and then seamlessly was able to flip it into what would be a different domain, the ride-sharing booking, and activate it all hands-free. It was just so fluid. It wasn't, I need to activate a new skill set. I need to, right? We released you from having to think in terms of how to make it work, because we've architected in a way to truly allow domains to interact and then scale. So let's touch on the fact that accuracy in all of this is truly the first step for true engagement. And Mary Meeker's Internet report last year cited 3 companies. Fast Company likewise just announced in their 50 most innovative companies in the AI section. It went Google, IBM, Baidu, and SoundHound Inc., naming us for very impressive AI and voice strides in what we're doing here. So I just want to call out a highlight to the accuracy behind this is where the end user gets the joy factor and then believes in it to use, because you certainly over the decade had enough experience either with call centers or even the embedded services on your phone where you're just frustrated and you choose not to use. So let's talk about why really does it feel very different. 2 different ways of looking at things. The traditional model has been 2 separate engines. First, you speak, that goes into ASR, automatic speech recognition. Out of that engine comes the transcription. That transcription, what did you just say, written into text, gets chucked into another engine, which then NLU processes to try to understand what was the meaning there. 2 separate steps. So anytime you have 2 separate steps, there's room for error, latency, and then overall failure points. No one in this industry would have said, gosh, we'd never want to combine these things. Actually, and everybody thought the Holy Grail was to combine these 2 steps to improve accuracy, speed, and then ultimately a joy factor. And that's what we were able to do over the course of many, many years, trial and error. And what we've coined this as now is it's speech to meaning. So literally when I speak, we are real time taking the sound and processing it across NLU frame by frame and parsing very quickly such that you experience a result, right? So what time is it?
It is 11:59 a.m. in Santa Clara.
Right, done right there. Another way just to look at it very simply, speech to text, natural language, slow, errors, frustration. This new way, combine these 2 engines, speech to text and natural language understanding, and now you've got speed, accuracy, and delight in what we call speech to meaning. But there are more components that really have to come together to build this whole world where it just works and scales. So we just talked about speech to meaning. The ability to support follow-up is really important, right? You want to be able to drill down, be specific, have a back and forth, to be able to understand compound and complex queries. And then the deep meaning understanding is where all of these domains have the ability to scale by building off of previously inputted domains, right? So when I give that example of show me hotels with availability tomorrow night in San Francisco, less than $400, but more than $300 that are pet friendly and have free Wi-Fi.
Showing 10 results with availability in San Francisco for tomorrow, March 18th, between $300 and $400 per night that are pet friendly and provide free Wi-Fi.
I'll do a little follow-up and I'll pop out of that domain. What's the weather there like?
The weather is 45 degrees and a shower near Bear Lake.
Okay, excuse me, that was... Please show me hotels with availability tomorrow night in San Francisco, less than $400, but more than $300 that are pet friendly and have free Wi-Fi.
Showing 10 results with availability in San Francisco for tomorrow, March 18th, between $20 and $200 per night that are pet friendly and provide free Wi-Fi.
What's the weather like there?
The weather is 59 degrees and mostly sunny in San Francisco.
Don't show anything that doesn't have air conditioning.
Okay, showing 10 results that have air conditioning.
So I just did a few acrobatics there, if you followed along what I was trying to demonstrate. Went into a domain, compound, complex. I was really picky. I want to know what hotel I can get to. Wait, what's the weather like there? not everyone can do that. They're going to think you're here in Santa Clara, but we told you there, we understood you meant San Francisco. And then I went back in and said, well, don't show them anything that doesn't, a double negative, really complicated to handle. So in this, we're just really showing the muscle of what we think needs to be there to build for a future where we will talk to our homes, our robots, etc. We think in the near term, people will still have to just say fragments and little stuff because the big, quite frankly, the big giants embed services that only have that capability. Even like this, imagine you're trying to set up a conference call with your team in Tokyo and in London, and you think, I think maybe 3 o'clock's gonna work, but let me just check. What time is it in Tokyo and London when it's 3 p.m. here?
It is 7 a.m. the next day in Tokyo and 10 p.m. in London when it is 3 p.m. in Santa Clara.
Great, so you're feeling that speed, the accuracy, that's pretty amazing. Let me just try it on my embedded voice search, right? So if I flip in and just use Siri, what time is it in Tokyo and London when it's 4 p.m. here?
In 5101 Great America Parkway, London, it's 7:03 p.m.
Right. Let's open up Google and just see what Google will do. Okay, Google, what time is it in Tokyo and London when it's 3 p.m. here? Okay. So I'm given a bunch of blue links, Tokyo time to London time converter. You know, I've got to make some choices. I could get to it, but that wasn't joyful, and it wasn't fast, and it didn't really give me what I needed instantly, right? So again, just an example of where we're painting the picture of what the future ought to represent. Now, here's some tools, right? The deep meaning understanding, which I've been demonstrating, allows you, it's this new approach that allows you to be very specific. You can do compound, complex. Can I do another one just to drill this home and blow your mind? What's the population of Japan and China? What languages are spoken in India? What is the capital of Germany? What is the area code of Bermuda?
The population is 127,288,000 for Japan, and 1,330,044,000 for China. The list of languages of India is Indian English, Hindi, Bengali and others listed. The capital of Germany is Berlin. The area code of Bermuda is +1-440.
You get the point, right? Like able to handle, thank you. It's pretty mind-blowing. And this is another example that I would have showed, that I just showed you a bunch of hotel searches. So here's just where maybe I can give some guidance if anyone wants to take this back, or if you yourself are responsible for your own company's strategy going forward, or if this ties into your specific job and remit. What does it mean not to kind of miss the shift? It's a couple crux questions. We like to frame it back on how do we make a success for these partners that are going to use the Houndify platform. What does it mean? So what is success for you? Not to peg you into how do you build something that I ultimately want to use you for. What are the personas of the service that you're creating? How will you leverage, protect, and distribute your data? Remember, this is very important for every company. How is their data situated? How is it shared across or kept protected? And on Houndify, you can keep everything very private, or you can share it. So for example, a ride-sharing domain that is marked as extensible, any other developer can use that nearly out of the box, which then extends you, the ride-sharing, or Yelp, for example, is one of our partners. We've got Uber, we've got Expedia. These are domains that are instantly accessible, and everyone wins. That developer doesn't need to spend 3 years building out that domain set. So the advice is simple. I would suggest not to be lulled into creation of these singular bots. The question is, has any company been transformed by spending resources on building even an Alexa skill set to date? Instead, build a powerful, delightful, and customized experience. Get your brand across, and that's what having the tools to be able to put your brand flavor on top of it, even your brand voice, literally the auditory experience. And then above all, think about how this is consequential, not just for 1 year, but 20, 30 years out. And in all of that, that's where, again, these components come together as a complete tool set We've done it on a platform level. We have 24,000 developers building on the Houndify platform. And it gives the chance to have a customized domain. So some Fortune 500 companies just want to build a domain that no one's ever going to see. It would never pop inside of Hound, for example. But they have data sets that are very material for their own customers or internal stakeholders to use. We can enable custom wake phrase. You don't have to use just the 2 or 3 big guys wake phrase. Why not own and create your own branded experience? Custom recognition models, this is going to be increasingly important, particularly in the auto industry. How do you handle noise vibration, etc.? You need to have that skill set involved for an exceptional experience. And then product integration support. That's non-trivial in order to get something through and out to market. Leaning on partners that have done it is probably really important. So as you think through how does AI, NLU, voice play into the whole world of this IoT monstrosity coming, I hope I've just given you some real tangible tools to think through, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone afterwards, and just thank you for appreciating sort of the step change of technology that we've been hard at work building. Thank you.